Hello boys and girls, and welcome to my Solihull Radio Children's Show on this Sunday morning, and I will be live here right up until 10 a.m. on this rather cold, wet and unfortunately thundery Sunday morning. But don't let that worry you, because I've got lots of wonderful things coming up today. Rainbow Man and his friends Giddy Gordon and Grumpy Doug will be having another fantastic adventure today, and today's adventure will be at Packwood House, so please stay tuned for that. I've got loads of wonderful songs coming up for you, including Disney songs, CBeebies songs, nursery rhymes, and also I've got loads of books to read for you today, and some of the books I'll be reading for you include Mr. Men and Little Miss books, and I'll be playing you some episodes of Mr. Men and Little Miss later for you in my show. But here's another theme tune of a show I'm going to be playing for you later in my show, and this show that I'm going to be playing for you is called Angel Mouse. See if any of you out there remember this theme song. I hope you all enjoyed that. That was the Angel Mouse theme tune from a show called Angel Mouse that I used to watch when I was younger, and I'll be playing you an episode of Angel Mouse later on in my show. If you would like to text in any birthdays to the show today for me to read out, then you can text in the studio on 075 64 30 30 64. That's texting in on 075 64 30 30 64. Or alternatively, you can email the studio on studio@solihullradio.com. That's studio@solihullradio.com, and I will endeavour to read out your birthday messages. Last week, if any of you were watching, the Chelsea Flower Show was on the television from London, and the Chelsea Flower Show is one of the biggest shows in the horticultural calendar, and I absolutely love gardening and flowers and all things like that. Now, my favourite flowers, for all you out there, are called tulips, and I absolutely love red tulips and yellow tulips and all different coloured tulips. So if any of you saw the Chelsea Flower Show, or if you would like to text in your favourite flowers, I would love to know what your favourite flowers are. So if you can text in the studios on 075 64 30 30 64 and let me know what your favourite flowers are, and if you saw the Chelsea Flower Show last week that was on all week down in London, and it was a fantastic show, and I really enjoyed watching it, and Birmingham City Council even had a garden there. But now, to start the show off and to get you moving and grooving for this Sunday morning, here is a Tweenie song, Tweenie's number 1. I hope you enjoy it.
Calling ground control. I need clearance for takeoff for the maiden voyage of the Starship Tweenies. Destination, space. Mission, to party. Astronauts on this mission.
Muller! Fizz!
Jake!
Bella!
And your captain for this mission, Doodles.
Yeah, let's fly.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Take off!
Check the microphone, say it again and let it roll. Hey everybody, lift it up. It feels so good to be on top. Wave your hands up in the air, wave them like you just don't care. All part of this groove, no stopping us, we gotta move.
Gonna rock ya, gonna shake ya. Gonna rock ya, gonna shake ya. Gonna rock ya, gonna shake ya. Gonna rock, gonna shake, gonna rock, rock, rock.
Look out, we're coming. This place is kinda jumping. We're ruling, you're moving, grabbing number one. Look out, we're coming. This place is kinda rocking. We're grooving, you're ruling, you're our number one. Hey, you rewind the beat. So get up that speed. North to south, from east to west. Thanks for shouting who's the best. Now it makes a lot of sense. There's no need to show defense. We'll be here until the end. On that you can all pretend.
Gonna rock ya, gonna shake ya. Gonna rock ya, gonna shake ya. Gonna rock ya, gonna shake ya. Gonna rock, gonna shake, gonna rock, rock, rock.
Look out, we're coming. This place is kinda jumping. We're ruling, you're grooving, grabbing number one. Look out, we're coming. This place is kinda rocking. We're grooving, you're ruling, you're our number one. North side, east side, west side, yeah, yeah. South side, east side, west side, yeah, yeah. Party, come on and party. Come on and party. Party. Come on and party. Look out, we're coming. This place is kinda jumping. We're ruling, you're grooving, grabbing number one. Look out, we're coming. This place is kinda rocking. We're grooving, you're ruling, you're our number one. Grabbing number one. You're our number one. Look out, we're coming. This place is kinda jumping. We're ruling, you're grooving, grabbing number one. Look out, we're coming. This place is kinda rocking. We're grooving, you're ruling, you're our number one. Look out, we're coming. This place is kinda rocking. We're grooving, you're ruling, you're our number one.
Number one from the Tweenies here on Solihull Radio. I'm Alex Manners, and I'll be here right up until 10 a.m. this morning with loads of fun episodes, fun books, and loads of wonderful songs to play for you today. But I now have an episode of Angel Mouse to play for you, and the episode of Angel Mouse that I'm going to play for you this morning is called Guardian Angel Mouse, and please enjoy Angel Mouse and Guardian Angel Mouse.
Angel Mouse. Angel Mouse. He tries to be good, he knows that he should, but things don't always go his way. He'll always do it
One day, my friend Angel Mouse was very excited.
I'm going flying today! I'm going flying today!
We go flying every day.
Not in Oswald's brand new aeroplane, Bird Brain. He's going to take me for a ride in it. Hello, what's this?
Hey, what was that?
What?
Angel Mouse, your thingamajig.
There was a message from you-know-who. Do I have to read it?
Of course you do.
All right.
Right. You know who wants you to be Baby Ellie's guardian angel for the day.
Well, what does that mean?
Well, I suppose it's a bit like being a babysitter. Angel Mouse, come on, you coming?
Yes, but I don't want to.
Hello, Ellie Mum. Angel Mouse has come to look after Baby Ellie. Oh, it's wonderful. But where is he?
Cool, wow.
New plane! New plane!
Hey, watch out!
What? Come on, Angel Mouse.
But Oswald needs looking after.
No, you have to take care of Baby Ellie. Ellie Mum's waiting.
Oh.
Angel Mouse did his best to be Baby Ellie's guardian angel. He gave her lunch, played with her in the garden, and he put Baby Ellie to bed for her afternoon nap. Baby Ellie wouldn't go to sleep. Help! Help!
Ow! God, Baby Ellie, you got to go to sleep. Oz. You mean Oswald? Oz. He's keeping you awake, isn't he? I'll tell him to go and fly his new plane somewhere else. Oswald!
Help! Help!
That's what Baby Ellie was trying to say. Oswald needs help.
I went to see how Guardian Angel Mouse was getting on. Angel Mouse! Ooh, what a mess. Hello, Baby Ellie. Where's Angel Mouse?
Oz.
You mean he's with Oswald? What a naughty angel. Help! Help!
Stop!
Can't see! Oh, help! Help!
Don't worry, I'll get you down.
I just finished tidying up when Ellie Mum came home. Oh no! What was I going to say? Hello, Quilly, where's Angel Mouse? Well, you see,
I'm here. I had to rescue Oswald.
Crash my plane! But you were supposed to be looking after Baby Ellie.
She was the one who saw that Oswald was in trouble.
Oh, she's such a clever little elephant.
Sure, she'll wake her up.
You tidied my house as well. You really are an angel, Angel Mouse. That's my friend, Guardian Angel Mouse.
Angel Mouse. He tries to be good, he knows that he should, but things don't always go his way. He'll always do his best when he's put to the test to get a little better every day. Angel Mouse. Angel Mouse.
That was Angel Mouse, and later on in my show, I'll be playing you another episode of Angel Mouse. But before I play you an episode of the Mr. Men show that used to be on the television, I've got 2 songs to play for you, 2 Disney songs. But before I even play you the songs, here are some fun and interesting facts about Mr. Men. Now, the first ever Mr. Man, Mr. Man, was created in 1971, and it was Mr. Tickle. And he became the first in the series of Mr. Men books, going on to sell 1 million copies within the first 3 weeks. Then, the first Little Miss was created in 1981, and the first Little Miss books included Little Miss Bossy, Little Miss Naughty, and Little Miss Sunshine. So, the first Mr. Man was Mr. Tickle in 1971, and in 1981, the first Little Miss books were produced, Little Miss Bossy, Little Miss Naughty, and Little Miss Sunshine, and later on, I'll be playing you some episodes of Little Miss and Mr. Men. But before I play you an episode of Mr. Funny, here are 2 Disney songs. I hope you enjoy them.
I can show you the world, shining, shimmering, splendid. Tell me, princess, now when did you last let your heart decide? I can open your eyes, take you wonder by wonder, over, sideways, and under, on a magic carpet ride, a whole new world, a new fantastic point of view. No one to tell us no, or where to go, or say we're only dreaming.
A whole new world, a dazzling place I never knew. But when I'm way up here, it's crystal clear that now I'm in a whole new world with you.
Now I'm in a whole new world.
Unbelievable sights, indescribable feeling, soaring, tumbling, freewheeling through an endless diamond sky. A whole new world.
Don't you dare close your eyes.
100,000
Hold your breath,
things
it
to
gets
see.
better.
I'm like a shooting star. I've come so far. I can't go back to where I used to be. Every turn a
With new
surprise.
horizons
Every
to
moment red
pursue.
letter.
I'll chase them anywhere. There's time to spare. Let me share this whole new world with you. A whole new world. That's where we'll be.
That's where we'll be.
Thrilling chase.
A wondrous place for you and me. There's something sweet and almost kind, but he was mean and he was coarse and unrefined, and now he's dear and so unsure. I wonder why I didn't see it there before.
She glanced this way, I thought I saw, and when we touched she didn't shudder at my paw. No, it can't be, I'll just ignore, but then she's never looked at me that way before.
New and a bit alarming. Who'd have ever thought that this could be true? That he's no Prince Charming, but there's something in him that I simply didn't see.
who'd have thought?
Well, bless my soul.
Well, who'd have known?
Well, who indeed?
And who'd have guessed they'd come together on their own?
It's so peculiar.
Well, wait and see. A few days more. There may be something there that wasn't there before.
You know, perhaps there's something there that wasn't there before.
There may be something there that wasn't there before.
Oh, come on, Pascal. It's not so bad in there.
Chores and sweep till the floor's all clean. Polish and wax, do laundry and mop and shine up. Sweep again, and by then it's like 7:15, and so I'll read a book, or maybe 2 or 3. I'll add a few new paintings to my gallery. I'll play guitar and knit and cook, and basically just wonder when will my life begin. It's puzzles and darts and baking, paper mache, a bit of ballet and chess, pottery and ventriloquy, candle making. Then I'll stretch, maybe sketch, take a climb, sew a dress, and I'll reread the books if I have time to spare. I'll paint the walls some more, I'm sure there's room somewhere. And then I'll brush and brush and brush and brush my hair, stuck in the same place I've always been. And I'll keep wondering, 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 when will my life begin? Tomorrow night, the lights will appear just like they do on my birthday each year. What is it like out there where they glow? Now that I'm older, Mother might just let me go.
Now, here is the episode of Mr. Funny, and the Mr. Men and Little Miss collection was created by a man called Roger Hargreaves, and here is an episode that used to be on the television called Mr. Funny.
Mr. Funny lived in a teapot. It had 2 bedrooms, a bathroom, a kitchen, and a living room, and it suited Mr. Funny very nicely. One day, Mr. Funny was having lunch. He wasn't very hungry, so he only had a daisy sandwich and a glass of toast. Delicious, he murmured to himself as he finished his funny lunch. After lunch, Mr. Funny decided to go for a drive in his car. Mr. Funny's car was a shoe. Have you ever seen a car that looks like a shoe? It looks very funny. As he drove along, everybody who saw him laughed to see such a funny sight. He passed a worm at the side of the road. The worm thought Mr. Funny in his funny car was the funniest thing he'd ever seen. He nearly laughed himself in two. He passed a pig in a field. The pig thought Mr. Funny in his funny car was the funniest thing she'd ever seen. She nearly laughed her tail off. Even the flowers he passed thought that Mr. Funny was the funniest thing that they'd ever seen. They nearly laughed themselves out of the ground. Eventually, Mr. Funny came to some crossroads. He didn't know which way to go, so he looked at the signpost. One of the signs said, "To the zoo." "Oh, that'd be fun," thought Mr. Funny to himself. So he drove his shoe towards the zoo. When he arrived at the gate of the zoo, he stopped. It was closed. "I'm sorry," said the zookeeper. "But we had to close the zoo because all the animals have a cold, and they're all feeling very sorry for themselves." "Oh dear," said Mr. Funny. And then he thought. "Perhaps I could help to cheer them up," he said. "Well," said the zookeeper, "worth a try, I suppose." And he opened the gate. Mr. Funny drove into the zoo in his shoes. First thing he saw was an elephant. It was true. The elephant was feeling very sorry for herself. Very sorry indeed. Mr. Funny stood and looked at the sad-looking elephant. And the sad-looking elephant stood and looked at Mr. Funny. Oh, dear. Then, do you know what Mr. Funny did? He pulled a funny face. Mr. Funny, as you can imagine, is very good at pulling funny faces. The elephant giggled. He'd never seen anything so funny. Mr. Funny pulled another funny face. And the elephant burst out laughing. The elephant laughed and laughed and laughed. Oh, he laughed so hard, she nearly laughed her trunk off. Oh, and she felt a lot better. Mr. Funny went over to the lion house. There was a lion, feeling extraordinarily sorry for himself. Mr. Funny stood and looked at the sad-looking lion, and the sad-looking lion stood and looked at Mr. Funny. Oh, dear. And then Mr. Funny pulled the funniest-looking face that's probably ever been pulled anywhere, ever. Now, you've heard a lion roar before, haven't you? Well, this lion roared, too, with laughter. He laughed so hard, he nearly laughed his whiskers to pieces. And then Mr. Funny went round to see all the other animals in the zoo. Oh, dear, what a miserable-looking lot. For all of them, Mr. Funny pulled funnier and funnier faces. The big brown pig giggled, then burst out laughing, and the giraffe laughed so hard she nearly laughed her neck into a knot. Into a knot. And the hippopotamus nearly laughed himself out of his skin, and the penguins nearly laughed their flippers floppy. The leopard. You should have seen him. He laughed so hard, he nearly laughed his spots off. His spots off. Oh, what a pandemonium. Oh, Mr. Funny, giggled the zookeeper, who'd started laughing as well. Oh, Mr. Funny, thank you very, very much indeed, sir, for coming to cheer us up. Oh, nothing really, replied Mr. Funny modestly, and drove off in his shoe. Later, when Mr. Funny arrived home, he chuckled to himself. Well, he said, well, that's the end of another funny day. And he parked his shoe and went inside his teapot. And because he was feeling thirsty, he made himself a nice hot cup of cake.
That was Mr. Funny, and if you really enjoyed that, then stay tuned up until 10 a.m. because I've got loads more Mr. Men books and Mr. Men episodes to play for you and to read for you, as well as some more songs and some more, another episode of Angel Mouse, some more Disney songs, CBeebies songs, but now, here is a Balamory song, Spencer's song.
I'm Spencer, that's my name. Painting and music are my thing. So many colors, so much fun. Making friends with everyone. Climbing up a musical ladder. Rushing and I just can't stop. It's so bright, make your little eyes go pop. Got colors that you like. On the back of my painter's bike. Who knows who we might meet riding down this rainbow street. Climbing up a musical ladder, rushing and I just can't stop. It's so bright, shining in the sunshine. Everyone's a special friend of mine. So much fun, make your little eyes go pop. I got tambourines, cymbals and castanets, maracas and marimbas and a clarinet. Really doesn't matter what you got, you can make music from an old band box. Climbing up a musical ladder, rushing and I just can't stop. It's so bright down by the seaside, pretty as a picture. Come on, take a ride, it's so much fun. Make your little eyes go pop.
That was Balamory and the Spencer song. I hope you enjoyed it. Today, Rainbow Man is going to be visiting a National Trust property not too far from here called Packwood House, and Packwood House is in a place called Lapworth. Now, Rainbow Man will be visiting Packwood House and all the wonderful things they have there with his two friends, Giddy Gordon and Grumpy Doug. But let me tell you about some wonderful things that are happening at Packwood House over the half term during May. Well, you can pick up a 50 things to do before your 11 3/4 booklet from the visitors reception and start ticking off activities that you can do around as you walk around Packwood. There's a welly walk to tick off some of those activities, such as building a den, bird spotting, and making a trail with sticks. You can embark on an adventure through the woodland with various activities at different points along the walk. At Packwood House, they also have a tennis lawn to relax on, whilst the children can play with some fantastic outdoor games that they've got there. There's also a kitchen garden, and you can go along and see what the gardeners are growing in the vegetable plots, and the little ones will also love playing in the potting shed and watering the flower beds ready for the warmer months. And don't forget that there are some teddy bears there waiting for you to join in with their picnic, and that's all happening down at Packwood House this half term at the end of May. So if you want to head down to Packwood House, then I would urge you to get down there because it's an absolutely fantastic National Trust property. There's so much to do there, and let Rainbow Man go on his adventure to Packwood House with Giddy Gordon and Grumpy Doug, exploring all the wonderful things that they have there. So please enjoy Rainbow Man at Packwood House. He is here, he is there, Rainbow Man is everywhere. Seek him here, seek him there, see him in his rainbow chair. Hello, Rainbow Man. Can you remember where you are going for today's adventure? Rainbow Man stands up and points his finger in the air. Then he sits down. You will be visiting Packwood House National Trust today. Rainbow Man starts to cheer, woohoo! Do you know where Packwood House is, Rainbow Man? Rainbow Man thinks that Packwood House is in Warwickshire. That's right, Rainbow Man. Packwood House is in Warwickshire, in a place called Lapworth. Rainbow Man remembers going somewhere in Lapworth before. Well, do you remember the adventure you had to another National Trust property called Baddesley Clinton? Rainbow Man nods his head. Well, that was in Lapworth as well. It's only a few miles away from Packwood House. Right, time for an adventure. Off we go. Rainbow Man zooms up in his chair and starts swirling around with lots of colourful swirls. Swirling here, swirling there. Rainbow Man goes everywhere. Rainbow Man appears outside the main house at Packwood. You have arrived at Packwood House, Rainbow Man. Rainbow Man has a look around at where he is and can see a big house in front of him. That is the main house at Packwood. It dates from the 16th century, when it was built as a timber-framed building. One famous person to live at Packwood House was Graham Baron Ash, who eventually gave the house to the National Trust in 1941. Rainbow Man walks up to the house to have a closer look. It looks very old, but not very colourful. Would you like to go and have a look inside, Rainbow Man? Rainbow Man shakes his head, as he wants to go and play in the gardens. There are some lovely gardens here at Packwood. Let's go and have a walk through them. Rainbow Man starts to walk through the gardens, and then stops. Why have you stopped, Rainbow Man? Rainbow Man wants to look at all of the colourful flowers in the flower beds. He also wants to know what those big, tall, round, purple flowers are. They are alliums, Rainbow Man. Rainbow Man carries on walking through the gardens until he comes to a long garden full of yew trees. This is the yew garden, Rainbow Man. There are 30 yew trees in this garden. Rainbow Man walks right through the middle of the trees until he reaches a spiral path that goes all the way around a hedge. I wonder where the path goes, Rainbow Man. Rainbow Man goes up the narrow path, where he feels he is getting higher and higher. You have reached the top of the path, Rainbow Man. You can see right over the gardens from up here. As Rainbow Man is looking down the garden, he can see Giddy Gordon down the other end. There's Giddy Gordon, Rainbow Man. Rainbow Man waves to Giddy Gordon, and Giddy Gordon waves back. Then Rainbow Man goes back down the spiral staircase, and back past all the yew trees to where Giddy Gordon is. However, Rainbow Man can't see Giddy Gordon. Where has Giddy Gordon gone? Rainbow Man shrugs his shoulders. Maybe he is hiding from you behind one of the yew trees. Why don't you try and find him? Rainbow Man thinks that this sounds like great fun and goes searching for Giddy Gordon. Look, Rainbow Man, I can see something behind that tree. Rainbow Man goes over to the tree and finds Giddy Gordon. Found you, Giddy Gordon. Now it's your turn to hide, Rainbow Man. Rainbow Man goes to hide, but Giddy Gordon finds him really quickly. You're really good at this hide-and-seek game, Giddy Gordon. Rainbow Man spots a big lake and decides to go over and have a look at it. Goodbye, Giddy Gordon. Over at the lake, Rainbow Man decides to walk around it. I don't know how far it is to walk around, but it looks like a very nice walk. Rainbow Man walks a little way round until he spots a bridge over a little stream. You look like you are in a little wood, Rainbow Man. Rainbow Man agrees. It does look like a wood he is in. I know another wood at Packwood we can visit that has lots of things that we can play on. Rainbow Man likes the sound of this. But first, let's go and have a look at the kitchen gardens, where they are growing all sorts of yummy fruit and vegetables. Over at the kitchen garden, Rainbow Man can see lots of different vegetables that are being grown. Look, Rainbow Man, they have broccoli, cabbage and cucumber. As Rainbow Man is looking at the broccoli, Grumpy Doug suddenly comes up and says hello. Hello, Grumpy Doug. Grumpy Doug tells Rainbow Man that he likes looking at all of the fruit and vegetables, as they are very tasty and very good for you. He also tells Rainbow Man that they use some of the fruit and vegetables in some of their dishes that they sell in the cafe. Let's go and have a look in the wood that I told you about. Rainbow Man starts to cheer, woohoo! He is really excited about going in the wood. Would you like to come with us, Grumpy Doug? Grumpy Doug nods his head. Rainbow Man and Grumpy Doug walk across a field until they reach the wood. I wonder what we will see first in the wood. The first thing that they spot is a rope swing. It looks like you really want to go on the swing, Rainbow Man. Rainbow Man nods his head and jumps on the swing. Be careful, Rainbow Man, you don't want to fall off. Would you like a go on the swing, Grumpy Doug? Grumpy Doug shakes his head as the swing looks too dangerous for him. The next thing that they spot is a little game of quoits and a music wall made of logs. These look like 2 more things that you can play with, Rainbow Man and Grumpy Doug. Rainbow Man goes straight over to the music wall and starts making music. Then Grumpy Doug has a go. Was that fun? Rainbow Man nods his head, but Grumpy Doug shakes his, as he found the music wall too noisy. As they carry on walking, they spot a long rope that is tied between 2 trees. Look, there is another rope. I wonder how we can play on this. Rainbow Man knows exactly how he can play on the rope. He goes over to the rope and holds on with his hands. Then he puts his feet over the rope and hangs upside down. You're funny, Rainbow Man. But be careful. Don't fall off. Rainbow Man gets down from the rope. You remind me of a sloth, Rainbow Man. They hang upside down from trees. Rainbow Man starts to laugh. I think we have run out of time today, Rainbow Man. Rainbow Man waves to Grumpy Doug, and Grumpy Doug waves back. Then Rainbow Man walks out of the wood and back towards the shop and cafe. Well, that's all for today. It's now time to go. Colourful swirls appear and Rainbow Man starts swirling around with them. Swirling here, swirling there, Rainbow Man goes everywhere. Rainbow Man appears back at home in his rainbow chair. I bet you enjoyed yourself today at Packwood House. Rainbow Man starts to cheer, woohoo! I enjoy visiting National Trust properties. Rainbow Man agrees. He likes visiting National Trust properties as well. I wonder where you will go on your adventure next time, Rainbow Man. Rainbow Man shrugs his shoulders. Well, goodbye, Rainbow Man. See you next time.
Solihull Radio.
Hello again, boys and girls. Are you all enjoying yourself today? I'm Alex Manners and you're listening to my live Solihull Radio children's show right up this morning until 10 a.m. where I've got lots of wonderful songs, stories to read, episodes to play for you and lots of things like that. So if you're enjoying yourself, then get moving and grooving with this next song, Justin Fletcher and Just Party!
Party people, it's been too long. If you wanna party, then come along. If you feel like dancing, what you gonna do? Go grab your friends You wanna party, party people, rock your body. What you waiting for? Bring the alarm, bring on the band. Tell all the people so they understand. Bring the alarm, go out with a bang. Bring the alarm, just party, party all day long. Don't stop the music, just keep it going. Party, party all day long. Please tell the DJs to keep it on. We'll be dancing and dancing and moving around. We'll be shaking and shake till we fall to the ground. Just party, party all day long. Please tell the DJs to keep it going. Just party, just party, party.
Just Party by Justin Fletcher. Did you all enjoy that? And did you all enjoy Rainbow Man at Packwood House? Because if you did, then if you head down to YouTube, to the Solihull Radio YouTube channel, then you'll be able to listen back to that episode of Rainbow Man, and you'll be able to listen to all the other episodes of Rainbow Man that I've been reading for you every week on my Solihull Radio children's show. Now, earlier in my show, I played you an episode of Mr. Men and Mr. Funny, and now I've got an episode to play for you of a Little Miss character, and the Little Miss character whose episode I'm going to be playing for you is called Little Miss Naughty. So, here it is, Little Miss Naughty.
Sometimes in sunshine, sometimes in style, sometimes with no time or just with a smile. Up to her eyes in surprises and tricks, no disguising. She's a little handful of trouble, a bundle of fun. Glad you could make it, so glad you could come. Little Miss, we're waiting for you. Ready, steady, how do you do?
Are you ever naughty? Sometimes, I bet. Well, Little Miss Naughty was naughty all the time. She woke one Sunday morning and looked out of the window.
Looks like a nice day for being naughty.
That Sunday, Mr. Uppity was out for his morning stroll.
I'm going to knock his hat off. Just you watch.
From behind a wall, Miss Naughty knocked Mr. Uppity's hat off his head with a walking stick. My hat! Mr. Greedy had put a turkey in the oven for lunch. A rather large turkey.
Oh, don't I fancy that turkey? I'm going to pinch it.
Oh, who's that at the door just when I'm about to eat my delicious lunch? Hello? Oh, no! Poor Mr. Greedy. A sausage isn't much of a lunch when you've been looking forward to a whole turkey, is it? And do you know what she did that evening? She went to an expensive restaurant and ordered all the most expensive food on the menu.
Yes, I'll have oysters, caviar, fresh salmon, T-bone steak, well done, 2 plates of chips, lemon meringue pie, and your best bottle of lemonade.
And do you know what she did next? She sent the bill to Mr. Mean. Naughty girl. What a shock. The next day, she met Mr. Worry.
Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear.
Oh, I see. What is the problem then?
Well, it looks to me as if you've got measles. Your face is covered in spots.
Oh, dear. He worried off to see Dr. Makewell. Dr. Makewell listened to Mr. Worry's tale and took a mirror from his drawer. Oh, there's no spots. What a thing to say to me when it wasn't true.
Oh, what a lovely day, and it ain't even dinner time yet.
The Mr. Men decided to hold a meeting. Something has to be done, announced Mr. Uppity, showing them his bent hat. Mr. Greedy thought. Yes. cleared his throat and spoke. I've no idea. Well, I have, piped up Mr. Worry. I know what that naughty little girl needs, and I know who can do it. Really? Who? What? Oh, that'd be telling, wouldn't it? Chuckled Mr. Worry, and went off to see a friend of his. Someone who could do impossible things, like making himself invisible. That afternoon, Mr. Nosey was asleep under a tree. Little Miss Naughty crept towards him with a pot of paint in one hand and a paintbrush in the other, and a rather large grin on her face.
I'm going to paint the end of his nose red.
But just as she was about to do this dreadful deed, something happened. The brush jumped out of her hand, dipped itself into the pot of red paint, and began to chase Little Miss Naughty down the road.
Get off! Buzz off! Get off!
Somebody invisible was holding the brush and pot. I wonder who. Mr. Jelly was waiting for a bus. All alone when, behind his back, Little Miss Naughty crept up quietly. She had a balloon in one hand and a pin in the other. Oh, she couldn't do that to poor nervous Mr. Jelly, could she? Oh, yes, she could.
He went off jump when his balloon goes pop.
But just as she was about to make the balloon go pop, something happened. The balloon began to grow larger and larger as somebody invisible blew more air into it. Miss Naughty began to lift off the ground.
Ah! Help! Oh, Mum! Help! Put me down!
She sailed away, up and over the trees, on the balloon, until a bird pecked it. Poor Miss Naughty. She fell into the duck pond. Mr. Lazy was in bed, fast asleep. And outside his house, Little Miss Naughty stood by the front door. She raised her hand. Oh, she couldn't be so naughty as to knock on the door and wake up poor Mr. Lazy. Not at 6 o'clock in the morning. She couldn't. Oh, yes, she could.
Then I'll make him angry waking him up this early.
But just before she did, guess what? That naughty girl felt someone who was invisible tweak her nose. Hard.
Ouch!
And then her nose was tweaked again.
Ouch! Ow! Get off! No! It's not fair!
And Little Miss Naughty ran home holding her nose. And after that, she was cured. No naughtiness at all. Mr. Worry went round to thank his invisible friend. Hello, Mr. Impossible, he said. Thank you for helping to cure poor little Miss Naughty. My pleasure, laughed Mr. Impossible. But it did take a week. Yes, indeed. And a tweak, he said.
She's plump.
He's fat, bit late, and naughty, and tickle.
She's trouble.
Sunshine. We're happy, tiny, neat.
I'm silly.
She's happy. She's little Miss Sunshine.
I'm fuzzy. I'm greedy.
And look what I am.
I'm Julie.
It's magic.
I'm me.
Mother.
Dream.
Scatterbrain.
And the vast splendid impossible team. All friends together. The little Miss and Mr. Men. All friends together. Round and round we go. Back to back and side by side and on with the show.
That was Little Miss Naughty, and here are two more Justin Fletcher songs to get you moving and grooving for this Sunday morning.
Oh, the grand old Duke of York, he had 10,000 men.
He marched them up to the top of the hill and he marched them down again. And when they were up, they were up. And when they were down, they were down. And when they were only halfway up, they were neither up nor down. He had 10,000 men. He marched them up to the top of the hill and he marched them down again. And when they were up, they were up. And when they were down, they were down. And when they were only halfway up, they were neither up nor down. Of York, he had 10,000 men. He marched them up to the top of the hill and he marched them down again. And when they were up, they were up. And when they were down, they were down. And when they were only halfway up, they were neither up nor down. Oh, the grand old Duke of York, he had 10,000 men. He marched them up to the top of the hill and he marched them down again. And when they were up, they were up. And when they were down, they were down. And when they were only halfway up, they were neither up nor down. And when they were only halfway up, they were neither up nor down. It's Old MacDonald's farm! Old MacDonald had a farm, E-I-E-I-O. And on that farm he had some cows, E-I-E-I-O. With a moo-moo here and a moo-moo there. Here a moo, there a moo, everywhere a moo-moo. Old MacDonald had a farm, E-I-E-I-O. And now Old MacDonald has got some sheep on his farm. So get ready everyone to go. Nah. Old MacDonald had a farm, E-I-E-I-O. And on that farm he had some sheep, E-I-E-I-O. With a bar here and a bar there. Here a bar, there a bar, everywhere a bar. Moo-moo here and a moo-moo there. Here a moo, there a moo, everywhere a moo-moo. Old MacDonald had a farm, E-I-E-I-O. And now Old MacDonald has got some ducks on his farm. So get ready to do some quacking everyone. Old MacDonald had a farm, E-I-E-I-O. And on that farm he had some ducks, E-I-E-I-O. With a quack quack here and a quack quack there. Here a quack, there a quack, everywhere a quack quack. Bar here and a bar there. Here a bar, there a bar, everywhere a bar. Moo moo here and a moo moo there. Here a moo, there a moo, everywhere a moo moo. Old MacDonald had a farm, E-I-E-I-O. Hey, what's this? Old MacDonald has bought some chickens for his farm. So get ready everyone to go. Old MacDonald had a farm, E-I-E-I-O. And on that farm he had some chickens, E-I-E-I-O. With a cluck cluck here and a cluck cluck there. Here a cluck, there a cluck, everywhere a cluck cluck. Quack quack here and a quack quack there. Here a quack, there a quack, everywhere a quack quack. Bar here and a bar there. Here a bar, there a bar, everywhere a bar. Moo moo here and a moo moo there. Here a moo, there a moo, everywhere a moo moo. Old MacDonald had a farm, E-I-E-I. Oh.
Solihull Radio.
I'm Alex Manners, and the time now is 9 o'clock on my Solihull Radio children's show, my live show today. What is coming up in our local area over the half term? Well, in Touchwood, you can take on the Tail Trail at Touchwood from Saturday the 26th of May until Sunday the 3rd of June. They are challenging children to put their story hunting skills to the test and seek out a host of novel-inspired props and challenges to identify the stories that relate to them. So that is down at Touchwood. At Selly Manor, from the 28th of May until the 3rd of June, it is Pirate Week, and there are crafts and games for young buccaneers. The children will be able to join in with pirate-themed craft activities, treasure hunts, and lots of other games to keep them entertained this half-term. Plus, you'll be able to have a look around the beautiful Tudor Manor and Medieval Hall. At Packwood House, which I mentioned earlier in my show, there is a 50 things to do before your 11 3/4 booklet that you can get from the visitors' reception, and start ticking off activities that you can do around Packwood. There is a welly walk, and you can tick off some of the activities as you go round, such as building a den, bird spotting, and making a trail with sticks. And families can embark on adventures together through the woodland. So that's down at Packwood House. At the Birmingham Museum and Art Gallery, after more than 100 years in London, Dippy the Diplodocus is travelling around the UK and spending the summer in Birmingham from the 26th of May until the 9th of September. So, for all you dinosaur lovers out there, head down to the Birmingham Museum and Art Gallery, where after 100 years in London, Dippy the Diplodocus will be spending the summer in Birmingham. Isn't that fantastic? And at Resorts World in Birmingham, from the 30th of May until the 1st of June, there is a free Fun Kids half-term where there will be creature-themed crafts with a creation station at Resorts World. So, free fun for kids this May half-term. They're at the Resorts World in Birmingham from the 30th of May until the 1st of June. There are creature-themed crafts with a creation station, and that is down at Resorts World. So, if they all sounded really, really interesting for you, then head down to Touchwood, Selly Manor, Packwood House, Birmingham Museum and Art Gallery, or Resorts World, and join in with some of the wonderful, wonderful activities that are going on over the half-term. Here is another Disney song, and this time it's one of my favourite. It's Frozen and Let It Go. Here I go.
Let them see, be the good girl you always have to be. Conceal, don't feel, don't let them know. Well, now they know. Let it go, let it go. Can't hold it back anymore. Let it go, let it go. Turn away and slam the door. I don't care what they're going to say. Let the storm rage on. The cold never bothered me anyway. It's funny how some distance makes everything seem small, and the fears that once controlled me can't get to me at all. It's time to see what I can do to test the limits and break through. No right, no wrong, no rules for me. I'm free. Let it go, let it go. I am one with the wind and sky. Let it go, let it go. You'll never see me cry. Here I stand, here I stay. Let the storm rage on. My power flurries through the air into the ground. My soul is spiraling in frozen fractals all around. And one thought crystallizes like an icy blast. I'm never going back. The past is in the past. Let it go, let it go. When I rise like the great God dawn. Let it go, let it go. That perfect girl is gone. Here I stand, bothered me anyway.
That was a fantastic Disney song, Frozen and Let It Go. And now I've got another Mr. Men book to read for you. And instead of playing you the episode of this Mr. Men character, I'm going to read you the book. And the book I'm going to read for you is called Mr. Grumpy. And Mr. Grumpy was written by Roger Hargreaves. It was a lovely summer evening. Mr. Grumpy was at home. Crosspatch Cottage. He sat down in an armchair and picked up a book. And then, do you know what he did? He tore all the pages out of it, every one. Mr. Grumpy can't stand books. He has a shocking bad temper. In fact, he's quite the most bad-tempered person you can imagine. Grumpy by name, and even more grumpy by nature. The following morning, he was out in the garden, pulling up flowers. He couldn't stand pretty flowers growing in his garden, when out of the corner of his eye he saw a figure. It was Mr. Happy. "Good morning," said Mr. Happy. "Good," said Mr. Grumpy. "What's good about it?" "But," said Mr. Happy. "But nothing," went on Mr. Grumpy. "Get out of my garden." "I beg your pardon," said Mr. Happy. "You heard me," snapped Mr. Grumpy. "Go away." "I say," laughed Mr. Happy, "you are a bad-tempered fellow." Grunted Mr. Grumpy. "And," went on Mr. Happy, "bad-tempered fellows need to change their ways." "Rubbish," reported Mr. Grumpy, and went into his cottage, deliberately stepping on Mr. Happy's foot as he passed him. "Ouch!" said Mr. Happy. Bang went the door of Crosspatch Cottage as Mr. Grumpy slammed it behind him. Mr. Happy stood there, looking not quite so happy as he normally does. His foot hurt. He thought, and thought, and thought some more. Then he had an idea. He smiled, and went to see Mr. Tickle. Mr. Happy told Mr. Tickle of his idea of how to get Mr. Grumpy to change his ways, and Mr. Tickle grinned the sort of grin that goes from ear to ear. That is, if you have ears, which he doesn't. "Oh," he grinned, rubbing the hands at the end of those extraordinary long arms of his together. "That sounds fun." That afternoon, Mr. Grumpy went to town shopping. He walked into Mr. Meat's shop. Mr. Meat was a butcher. "Give me some sausages," snapped Mr. Grumpy, "and be quick about it." Poor Mr. Meat, who was frightened of Mr. Grumpy, did as he was told. But as he was doing as he was told, something appeared through the shop doorway. Do you know what it was? It was an extraordinarily long arm belonging to... Well, you can guess who it belonged to, can't you? That extraordinarily long arm of Mr. Tickle's came in through the door, and across the shop, and up Mr. Grumpy, and tickled him. "Oh!" squeaked Mr. Grumpy in alarm, dropping his sausages and looking round to see what had happened. But could he see anything? He could not. Grunted Mr. Grumpy, and picked up his sausages and went next door, to the cake shop. Crash went the door of the shop. "Give me a cake," snapped Mr. Grumpy, "and hurry up." Poor Mrs. Fairy, who sold cakes, was frightened of Mr. Grumpy, so did as she was told. But as she was doing as she was told, guess what happened? "Ooh!" squeaked Mr. Grumpy, dropping his cakes and his sausages. He just could not understand what was happening. And the same thing happened at the Dailies, the newspaper shop, and at Mr. Humbug's, the sweet shop, and at Mr. Bottle's dairy, and at Mr. Packet's, the grocer's. It went on all afternoon. And all afternoon Mr. Grumpy kept being tickled, and dropping his shopping, and picking it up, and being tickled, and dropping his shopping, and picking it up, and being tickled, and dropping his shopping, and he just could not understand it. On his way home to Crosspatch Cottage, he met Mr. Happy again. "Hello," grinned Mr. Happy. "Having a nice day?" "Get out of my way," snapped Mr. Grumpy, "before I kick you." But almost before the words had passed his lips, that extraordinarily long arm of Mr. Tickle's had appeared from behind a tree and tickled him yet again. He jumped in the air and dropped all his shopping, yet again and fell over. Mr. Happy looked down at Mr. Grumpy, lying amid a jumble of sausages, and cake, and newspapers, and sweets, and milk, and cornflakes. I think, he laughed, that if you were to change your ways, and be not quite so bad-tempered, quite so often, this sort of thing might not happen to you quite so often. Hum, grunted Mr. Grumpy. He picked up all his shopping yet again, and went home to Crosspatch Cottage. But on his way, he did think about what Mr. Happy had said, because he very definitely did not like what had happened to him that afternoon. Mr. Happy and Mr. Tickle laughed and shook hands. And so, after that, he did try to be not quite so bad-tempered quite so often. And the more he tried, the less he found he was tickled. And so he tried more and more, and these days he's quite a changed person. Why, only the other evening he picked up a book. And do you know what? He only tore out 1 page. That was Mr. Grumpy by Roger Hargreaves.
Jolly Home Radio.
I hope you enjoyed that episode, and I'll be reading you some more Mr. Men episodes in a minute, but before I do that, I've got an Angel Mouse episode to play for you. But even before I play the Angel Mouse episode, here is another song, Do It Like Me.
Do it like me. Be as small as a mouse or as tall as a tree. Do it like me. Pretend to be a bird like me. Flap your wings, flap your wings. Do it, fly so high. Do it, swoop down low. Woo! Do it like me. Do it like me. Yeah. Right, my turn, Fizz. Do it like me. Be as small as a mouse or as tall as a tree. Do it like me. Pretend to be a tree like me. You've got to be a big, strong tree. Ready? Ready! Stretch up high. Do it. Up to the sky. Do it. Wave your branches. Whoosh, whoosh. Do it like me. Do it like me.
Oh, trees don't go very fast though, Bella.
Of course they don't.
Oh, me now.
Oh, will yours be fast, Jakey?
Kind of. Do it like me. Be as small as a mouse or tall as a tree. Do it like me. Pretend to be a mouse like me. You have to be a very little mouse.
Little and very fast.
Crouch down low. Do it. Twitch your nose. Do it. Nibble some cheese. Squeak, squeak. Do it like me. Do it like me.
Yay! Nice one, Jakey. Right, my turn. Right, what can I do that's really fast?
Well, Milo, my gran told me that the fastest animal is a cheetah. It's like a lion, only with spots.
Thanks, Bella. I'm going to be a cheetah.
Milo!
Do it
like me. Be as small as a mouse or as tall as a tree.
Do it
like me. Pretend to be a cheetah like me. Now you have to run really fast. Run around.
Do it.
Run around.
Do it.
Run some more.
Do it like me.
I said.
Do it like me.
Here is another episode of Angel Mouse, and this episode of Angel Mouse is called Angel Mouse, a visitor for Angel Mouse. Please enjoy it.
Angel Mouse. Angel Mouse. He tries to be good, he knows that he should, but things don't always go his way. He'll always do his best when he's put to the test to get a little better every day. Angel Mouse. Angel Mouse.
One day, my friend Angel Mouse and I were having breakfast when there was a knock on the door.
Ah, hello.
Grub-a-groo. Grub-a-groo.
Oh, hey, look, there's a message from you-know-who. It says, please help your important visitor to get home.
But where is his home?
It doesn't say. Oh, but there he goes. Ask him.
Excuse me, where do you live? Hey, I'm talking to you.
Be polite. He's important.
Oh, where do you live?
Grub-a-groo.
That's not in our village, is it?
Grub-a-groo.
Let's go outside. You can show us. Come on. Oh, help me. Ah,
Grub-a-groo.
this is hopeless. We need help. Look, there's Spencer. Hello. We've got an important visitor. Can you give him a lift home?
Delighted, dear boy. Where to?
Grub-a-groo.
Where?
Grub-a-groo.
Let's see, I better get the map out. Here we are. Let's have a look. Can't see it. Let's have a scout round, shall we? We couldn't find our important visitor's home anywhere. I don't think this fellow comes from round here at all, you know.
Then how do I make sure he gets home?
Grub-a-groo.
Oh, I know. Oswald. Oswald!
1-1. 2-2. Push, push.
Grubba.
Let's go. Oswald flew to Cloud 9 and all round the sky, but they still couldn't find the important visitor's home.
It's no good. He'll have to stay here.
But what about the message from you-know-who?
It's a silly message. I'm never going to find Grub-a-groo.
Your thingamajig.
Grub-a-groo to you too.
Angel Mouse, I need you. Baby Ellie's very upset. Be an angel and help me. Angel Mouse is busy.
Grub-a-groo, grub-a-groo, grub-a-groo.
No, he's not. Anything's better than more grub-a-grooing. Bun, bun.
She keeps asking for buns, but she doesn't want them.
Bun, bun. No, Bun Bun. That's what she calls Hutchkin. Bun Bun. Let's go to see him. Bun Bun.
Stupid.
Grub-a-groo, grub-a-groo.
Bun Bun. There's something blocking his front door. Bun Bun.
Hey, man, the biggest carrot I've ever seen fell out of the sky and under my door.
It's a rocket.
No, it's a carrot, man. I mean, who's got a rocket around here?
He has.
Grub-a-groo.
Stupid.
Oh, grub-a-groo. Oh.
2-2. 1-1.
Grub-a-groo.
The chap comes from space. That's why we couldn't find his home.
But Baby Ellie found his spaceship.
And you've made Baby Ellie happy. You're an angel, Angel Mouse. That's my friend Angel Mouse.
That's some carrot, man.
Angel Mouse. He tries to be good, he knows that he should, but things don't always go his way. He'll always do his best when he's put to the test to get a little better every day. Angel Mouse. Angel Mouse.
Solly Home Radio.
That was another fantastic episode of Angel Mouse, and before I read you another Mr. Men or Little Miss book and play you some more songs, I've got a fantastic half-term offer to read for you that one of the other presenters on this on Solihull Radio has asked me to read out. And this half-term offer is you can book a trial lesson at the DMS Heart of England Music Academy in Knoll. They teach most instruments. All ages are available from 4 to adults, plus there is a music theatre, choir and performing skills. So, if you want to book a free trial lesson at the DMS Heart of England Music Academy in Knoll, where they teach most instruments from ages 4 to adults, plus they have a music theatre, then you can visit the DMS Knoll on Facebook, on their Facebook page, or you can call them on 015 64 772 831. That's visiting the DMS Knoll Facebook page or calling them on 01564 772 831, and that is a half-term offer of a free trial lesson at the DMS Heart of England Music Academy in Knoll, and that sounds absolutely fantastic. So I would urge you to all get down and book a free trial lesson at the DMS Heart of England Music Academy. You won't be disappointed. And here are 2 more songs: Bob the Builder, Mambo No. 5 and Postman Pat.
Are you ready, Bob?
Yes.
What about you, Lovely?
I'm a bit scared. Okay, team, let's go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Everybody's outside, so come on, let's ride to the builder's yard around the corner. The gang's all here, and it's time for us to do what we wanna. There's a house with a roof that leaks. It's an urgent job, and it could take us weeks. There's Dizzy, Lofty, and Rolly too. Wendy always knows just what to do. And there's no job too big or small. With scoop and mug, we can do it all. Metal, brick, or wood, it's all good, and we can always send in the tractor. A little bit of timber and a saw. A little bit of fixing, that's for sure. A little bit of digging up the roads. A little bit of moving heavy loads. A little bit of tiling on the roof. A little bit of making waterproof. A little bit of concrete mixed with sand. A little bit of Bob the Builder Man. Careful, Dizzy. Jump up and down and move it all around. Mix it up to the sound. Dig a hole in the ground. Take 1 step left and 1 step right, and 1 to the front and 1 to the side. Clap your hands once and clap your hands twice, and if it looks like this, then you're doing it right. A bit of timber and a saw. A little bit of fixing, that's for sure. A little bit of digging up the roads. A little bit of moving heavy loads. A little bit of tiling on the roof. A little bit of making waterproof. A little bit of concrete mixed with sand. A little bit of Bob the Builder Man. Mambo number 6 and 7, 8. A little bit of timber and a saw. A little bit of fixing, that's for sure. A little bit of digging up the roads. A little bit of moving heavy loads. A little bit of tiling on the roof. A little bit of making waterproof. A little bit of concrete mixed with sand. A little bit of Bob the Builder Man. There's Rolly, Lofty, Scoop, Mop, and Dizzy. So much work to keep us all busy. Can we fix it? Yes, we can, with the team and Bob the Builder Man. Yes, we can. All right. Lovely. A little bit of Bob the Builder Man. Special delivery
hibernating fruit bats, a giant magnet or plough, a letter, a parcel, a bouncy castle, an elephant, balloons or a cow, a giant cake as big as a car where PC Selby hides, a pony, a kite or tiny eggs with tiny little chicks inside. Special delivery service that is on his way. Special delivery service. What's it going to be today? Special delivery service that is on his way. Special delivery service. What's it going to be today? Postman Pat, SDS, we all know he's the best. Mission accomplished!
I now have another Mr. Men book to read for you, and this is a Little Miss book, and the Little Miss that I'm going to read for you today is called Little Miss Tiny. Little Miss Tiny was extremely small, not very tall at all. She was so very tiny, she didn't live in a house. Do you know where she lived? In a mouse hole, in the dining room of Home Farm. She had made the mouse hole quite comfortable, really, and luckily there weren't any mice because the farm cat had chased them all away. The trouble was, because she was so tiny, nobody knew she lived there. Nobody had noticed her, not even the farmer and his wife. So, there she lived, all alone, with nobody to talk to. She was very lonely and sad. Oh dear. One day, she was feeling so lonely, she decided to be very brave and go for a walk. Out of the mouse hole she came. She crept across the dining room and went through the crack in the door and into the hall. To Little Miss Tiny, the hall looked as big as a field, and she scuttled across it to the back door of the farm. Luckily for her, the letterbox was right at the bottom of the door, and she squeezed herself through it and onto the doorstep. It was all very exciting. There before her was the farmyard. She went exploring. She came to a door with a gap at the bottom and ducked in underneath. There, inside, was a pig. A large pig. And if you're as small as Little Miss Tiny, a large pig looks very large indeed. Miss Tiny looked at the pig. The pig looked at Miss Tiny. Oink! He grunted, and moved closer to inspect this little person who had entered his sty. Oh my goodness me, squeaked Little Miss Tiny in alarm, and shot out of the pigsty as fast as ever her little legs would carry her. She wasn't very fast, because her legs were so very little. She ran right around to the back of the pigsty before she stopped. She leaned against the wall and put her hands over her eyes and tried to get her breath back. Suddenly she heard a noise. A very close noise. A sort of breathing noise. Very close indeed. Oh! She hardly dared take her hands away from her eyes, but when she did, she wished she hadn't. What do you think it was there, right in front of her, looking at her with green eyes? Ginger, the farm cat. Poor Little Miss Tiny. Ginger grinned, showing his teeth. Help! Shrieked Little Miss Tiny at the top of her voice. Oh, somebody please help! The trouble was, the top of Little Miss Tiny's voice was not very loud at all. Ginger grinned another grin. Every day, Mr. Strong went to Home Farm to buy some eggs. He liked eggs, lots of them. That day, he was walking home across the farmyard when he heard a very tiny squeak. He stopped. There it was again. Round the corner. He looked round the corner and saw Ginger and the poor trapped Little Miss Tiny. Shoo! Said Mr. Strong to Ginger, and picked up Little Miss Tiny. Very gently. Hello, he said. Who are you? I'm Miss Tiny. You are, aren't you? Smiled Mr. Strong. Well, if I was as tiny as you, I wouldn't go wandering around large farmyards. But, said Miss Tiny, and told Mr. Strong about how she was so lonely, she had come out to find somebody to talk to. Oh dear, said Mr. Strong. Well now, let's see if we can't find you some friends to talk to. And now, every week, Mr. Strong collects little Miss Tiny and takes her off to see her friends. 3 weeks ago, he took her to see Mr. Funny, who told her so many jokes she couldn't stop laughing all day. 2 weeks ago, he took her to see Mr. Greedy. He told her his recipe for his favourite meal. But that's much, much too much for little Miss Tiny. Mr. Greedy grinned. For you, he said, divide by 100. Last week, Mr. Strong took her to see Mr. Silly, and Mr. Silly showed her how to stand on your head. That's very silly, giggled little Miss Tiny. Thank you, replied Mr. Silly modestly. And guess who she met this week? Somebody who's become a special little friend. I never thought I'd ever meet anybody smaller than me, laughed Mr. Small. Little Miss Tiny looked up at him and smiled. You wait till I grow up, she said. And that was little Miss Tiny.
Jolly Home Radio.
That was Little Miss Tiny, and I really hope you enjoyed all those wonderful Mr. Men and Little Miss episodes and stories that I've been reading for you today. Here is another song, I Want to Be Like You, from Disney.
Now I'm the king of the swingers, oh, the jungle VIP. I've reached the top and had to stop, and that's what's bothering me. I wanna be a man cub, and stroll right into town, and be just like the other men. I'm tired of walking around. Oh, ooby-doo, I wanna be like you. I wanna walk like you, talk like you, you see it's true, and ape like me can learn to be human too. What? Your part of the deal, cuz. Lay the secret on me of man's red fire.
But I don't know how to make fire.
Now don't try to kid me, man cub. I made a deal with you. What I desire is man's red fire to make my dream come true. Now give me the secret, man cub. Come on, clue me what to do. Give me the power of man's red flower so I can be like you.
do saba do the day do bum do the days of bones about bum bobby.
Abba-doo-dee.
Will a reap banaza?
Ebba-dobba-doy.
Will a la bazini?
Waddle-a-butt, woodle-a-butt.
Steeple dore. Will a ha 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 ha. Get mad, baby.
Haddle-laddle-laddle-laddle.
Will a haddle-laddle-laddle-dore.
Hoddle-doodle-dee-doo. I wanna be like you.
I wanna walk like you, talk like you, do. You see it's true, someone like me can learn to be like someone like me. Take me home, Daddy. Can learn to be like someone like you.
One more time.
Yeah, can learn to be like someone like me. Say do da ba 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 da doodle da 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 da.
Last week, I told you about some interesting things about coins, and this week, do any of you like fish and chips? Because I'm wondering, who invented fish and chips? Well, I can tell you who invented fish and chips, because the modern day fish and chip shop. It was thought that deep-fried fish was first introduced to Britain by the Spanish and Portuguese in the 16th and 17th century, while chipped potatoes, or chips, grew in popularity in Europe following the introduction of the potato in the 17th century, and chip shops started to pop up in the north of England during the 19th century. Fish and chip shops in Britain sell more than 250 million portions of fish and chips each year. That's 250 million portions of fish and chips. That's a lot of fish and chips, I can tell you. And fish and chip takeaways are 4 times more popular than Indian curries. Also, the takeaway nation that Britain is, nearly 70% of Brits take their fish and chips home to eat, so they prefer to eat them in their own homes than in the fish and chip shops. Also, people in Yorkshire eat more fish and chips than anyone else in the country, and 1 in 6 Brits goes to the fish and chip shop at least once a week. So, if you ever have fish and chips, then you'll be able to tell all your family some wonderful facts about fish and chips, and who invented fish and chips. Wasn't that interesting? But for a little extra treat, I've got another story to read for you, and this story is a special Winnie the Pooh story, and this Winnie the Pooh story is called Tigger Has Breakfast. Winnie the Pooh woke up suddenly in the middle of the night and listened. He got out of bed, lit his candle, and went to see if anybody was trying to get into his honey cupboard. They weren't, so he got back into bed. Then he heard the noise again. "Is that you, Piglet?" he said. But it wasn't. The noise went on. "Whirr, whirr, whirr, whirr," it said. There are lots of noises in the forest, but this is different, thought Pooh. It isn't a growl, and it isn't a purr, but it's a noise of some kind, made by a strange animal. I shall get up and ask him not to do it. He got out of bed and opened his front door. "Hullo," said Pooh. "Hullo," said whatever it was. "Who is it?" Pooh asked. "Me," said the strange voice. In the candlelight, whatever it was and Pooh looked at each other. "I'm Pooh," said Pooh. "I'm Tigger," said Tigger. Pooh had never seen an animal like this before. "Does Christopher Robin know about you?" "Of course he does," said Tigger. "Well," said Pooh, "it's the middle of the night, which is a good time for going to sleep. Tomorrow morning we'll have some honey for breakfast. Do Tiggers like honey?" "They like everything," said Tigger cheerfully. "Then, if they like going to sleep on the floor, I'll go back to bed," said Pooh, "and we'll do things in the morning. Good night." And he got back into bed and went fast asleep. In the morning, the first thing Pooh saw was Tigger sitting in front of the mirror looking at himself. "I found somebody just like me. I thought I was the only one of them," said Tigger. Pooh began to explain what a mirror was, but just as he was getting to the interesting part, Tigger said, "Excuse me a moment, but there's something climbing up your table." And with one loud whirr, 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 he leapt up and pulled the tablecloth to the ground. After a terrible struggle, he said, "I have won." "That's my tablecloth," said Pooh, as he began to unwind Tigger. "I wonder what it was," said Tigger. "It goes on the table, and you put things on it." Then why did it try to bite me when I wasn't looking? It didn't, said Pooh. Pooh put the tablecloth back on the table, placed the honey pot on the cloth, and they sat down for breakfast. Tigger took a large mouthful of honey. He looked up at the ceiling with his head on one side and made exploring noises with his tongue. And then he said, "Tiggers don't like honey." "Oh," said Pooh, trying to sound sad. Pooh felt rather pleased about this, and said that when he had finished his own breakfast, he would take Tigger round to Piglet's house, and Tigger could try some haycorns. "Thank you, Pooh, because haycorns are really what Tiggers like best." Off they set, and Pooh explained as they went to Piglet what a very small animal, who didn't like bouncing, and asked Tigger not to be bouncy at first. Tigger said that Tiggers were only bouncy before breakfast, and that as soon as they had had a few haycorns, they became quiet and refined. They knocked on the door of Piglet's house. "Hullo, Piglet, this is Tigger." "Oh, is it?" said Piglet. "I thought Tiggers were smaller than that." "Not the big ones," said Tigger. "They like haycorns," said Pooh. "So that's what we've come for, because poor Tigger hasn't had any breakfast yet." "Help yourself," said Piglet. After a long munching noise, Tigger said, "Ear and I-ors." Then he said, "Scoo-ee," and went outside. When he came back in, he said, "Tiggers don't like haycorns." "But you said they like everything except honey," said Pooh. "Everything except honey and haycorns," explained Tigger. Piglet, who was rather glad that Tigger didn't like haycorns, said, "What about thistles?" "Thistles," said Tigger, "are what Tiggers like best." So the three of them set off to find Eeyore. "Hullo, Eeyore," said Pooh. "This is Tigger." "What is?" said Eeyore. "This," explained Pooh and Piglet together. Tigger smiled. "He's just come," explained Piglet. Everyone thought for a long time, and then said, "When is he going?" Pooh explained that Tigger was a great friend of Christopher Robin's, who had come to stay in the forest, and Piglet explained to Tigger that he mustn't mind what Eeyore said, because he was always gloomy, and Tigger explained to anybody who was listening that he hadn't had any breakfast yet. "I knew there was something," said Pooh. "That was why we came to see you, Eeyore." "Then come this way, Tigger," said Eeyore. Eeyore led the way to a patch of thistles, and waved a hoof at it. "A little patch I was keeping for my birthday," he said. "But what are birthdays? Help yourself, Tigger." Tigger thanked him and looked at Pooh. "Are these really thistles?" he explained. "Yes," said Pooh. "What Tiggers like best." "That's right," said Pooh. So Tigger took a large mouthful. He gave a large crunch. "Ow," said Tigger. He sat down and put his paw in his mouth. "What's the matter?" asked Pooh. "Hot," mumbled Tigger. He stopped shaking his head to get the prickles out, and explained that Tiggers don't like thistles. "But you said that Poohs like everything except honey and haycorns," said Pooh. "And thistles," said Tigger, who was now running around in circles with his tongue hanging out. Pooh looked at him sadly. "What are we going to do?" he asked Piglet. Piglet said at once that they must go and see Christopher Robin. "You'll find him with Kanga," said Eeyore. He came close to Pooh and said in a loud whisper, "Could you ask your friend to do his exercises somewhere else? I shall be having lunch directly, and don't want it to bounce on just before I begin." "A trifling matter, but we all have our little ways," Pooh called to Tigger. "Come along, and we'll go and see Kanga. She's sure to have lots of breakfast for you." Tigger rushed off excitedly. As Pooh and Piglet walked after him, Pooh thought of a poem. "What shall we do about poor little Tigger? If he never eats nothing, he'll never get bigger. He doesn't like honey and haycorns and thistles, because of the taste and because of the bristles. And all the good things which an animal likes have the wrong sort of swallow, or too many spikes." "He's quite big enough anyhow," said Piglet. Pooh thought about this, and then he murmured to himself, "But whatever his weight in pounds, shillings and ounces, he always seems bigger because of his bounces." "And that's the poem," said Pooh. "Do you like it?" "All except the shillings," said Piglet. "They oughtn't to be there." "They wanted to come in after the pounds," explained Pooh, "so I let them. It is the best way to write poetry." At last they came to Kanga's house, and there was Christopher Robin. "Oh, there you are, Tigger," said Christopher Robin. "I knew you'd be somewhere." "I've been finding things in the forest," said Tigger importantly. "I found a Pooh, and a Piglet, and an Eeyore, but I can't find any breakfast." Pooh and Piglet explained what had happened. "Don't you know what Tigger's like?" asked Pooh. "I expect if I thought very hard I should," said Christopher Robin, "but I thought Tiggers knew." So they went into Kanga's house. They told Kanga what they wanted, and Kanga said very kindly, "Well, look in my cupboard, Tigger dear, and see what you like." She knew at once that however big Tigger seemed to be, he wanted as much kindness as Roo. "Shall I look too?" said Pooh, who was beginning to feel a little 11 o'clockish, and he found a small tin of condensed milk that he thought Tigger's wouldn't like, and took it into a corner by himself. But the more Tigger put his nose into this, and his paw into that, the more things he found which Tigger's didn't like. And what he found, once he had found everything in the cupboard, and couldn't eat any of it, he said to Kanga, "What happens now?" But Kanga and Christopher Robin and Piglet were all watching Roo have his extract of malt, and Kanga was saying, "Now, Roo dear, you promised." "What is it?" whispered Tigger to Piglet. "His strengthening medicine," said Piglet. "He hates it." So Tigger came closer, and he leant over to the back of Roo's chair. Then suddenly he put his tongue, and took one large gollop, which made Kanga jump with surprise. "Oh," she said, and then clutched at the spoon just as it was disappearing, and pulled it safely back out of Tigger's mouth. But the extract of malt had gone. "He'd taken my medicine, he's taken my medicine," sang Roo happily. Then Tigger looked up at the ceiling, and closed his eyes, and his tongue went round his chops, in case he had left any outside, and a peaceful smile came across his face as he said, "So that's what Tigger's like," which explained why he always lived at Kanga's house afterwards, and had extracts of malt for breakfast, dinner, and tea, and sometimes, when Kanga thought he wanted strengthening, he had a spoonful or two of Roo's breakfast, after meals, as medicine. "But I think," said Piglet to Pooh, "that has been strengthened quite enough." And that was Winnie the Pooh, Tigger's Breakfast, which was based on the stories by A. Milne. Wasn't that a fantastic story? And I hope you all enjoyed it. The time now is 9:48, and you're listening to the last 12 minutes of my live Solihull Radio Children's Show on this rather interesting Sunday morning, as the weather is a little bit windy and cold and rainy, which isn't the best of weathers, but there's lots and lots of wonderful things you can be getting up to today. But here is another song, and this is Disney Kiss the Girl from The Little Mermaid. Here I go.
Percussion, strings, winds, words. There you see her, sitting there across the way. She don't got a lot to say, but there's something about her. And you don't know why, but you're dying to try. You wanna kiss the girl. Yes, you want her. Look at her, you know you do. Possible she wants you to. There is one way to ask her. It don't take a word, not a single word. Go on and kiss the girl. Sing with me now. Sha-la-la-la-la-la, by your mind. Look like the boy too shy, ain't gonna kiss the girl. Sha-la-la-la-la-la, ain't that sad, ain't it a shame? Too bad, he gonna miss the girl. But you better do it soon. No time will be better. She don't say a word, and she won't say a word until you kiss the girl. Sha-la-la-la-la-la, don't be scared. You got the moves prepared. Go on and kiss the girl. Sha-la-la-la-la-la, don't stop now. Don't try to hide it how you wanna kiss the girl. Sha-la-la-la-la-la, float along and listen to the song. The song say kiss the girl. Sha-la-la-la-la, the music play. Do what the music say. You gotta kiss the girl.
to kiss the girl? Why don't you wanna kiss the girl? Gotta kiss the girl. Go on and kiss the girl.
And here is another Disney song, When I See an Elephant Fly, from Dumbo.
Did you ever see an elephant fly?
Well, I seen a horse fly.
I seen a dragon fly. I seen a house fly.
See, I seen all that too. I seen a peanut stand and heard a rubber band. I seen a needle that winked its eye. But I be done seeing about everything when I see an elephant fly.
What you say, boy?
I said when I see an elephant fly. I seen the front porch swing, heard a diamond ring. I seen a polka dot railroad tie. But I be done seeing about everything when I see an elephant fly. I saw a clothes horse, a raven buck.
And they tell me that a man made a vegetable truck.
Well, I didn't see that. I only heard.
Just to be sociable, I'll take your word. I heard a fireside chat. I saw a baseball bat.
And I just laughed till I thought I'd die.
But I be done seen about everything when I see an elephant fly. Ba-da-da-doo-doo. But I be done seen about everything when I see an elephant fly.
With the wind.
When I see an elephant fly.
I really hope you've enjoyed my show today, listening to all the episodes of the Mr. Men and the books that I've read out of the Mr. Men and Little Miss, all the episodes of Angel Mouse, the Rainbow Man at Packwood House episodes, and all the wonderful events that are happening around the West Midlands and our local area this half term. And also, I also read out another fantastic thing that's going to go on this half term, where you can book a free trial lesson at the DMS Heart of England Music Academy. Now, as I mentioned before, if you want to book a free trial lesson at the DMS Heart of England Music Academy, which is based over in Knoll, then if you call 01564 772 831 or visit their Facebook page, DMS Knoll, then you can book yourself onto that, where they teach most instruments with all ages, up right from 4 right up until adult. So if that sounds really interesting for you, and maybe you want to learn a new instrument, then book a free trial lesson at the DMS Heart of England Music Academy in Knoll. Next week on my show, next Sunday, at the same time, from 8 till 10 a.m, I will have some more fantastic episodes of children's shows to play you. I'll be reading you some more books and playing you some more wonderful, exciting and fun Disney songs, CBeebies songs, nursery rhymes, and lots of things like that. And one of the episodes of children's shows that I'm going to be playing for you is a show that used to be on the BBC when I was younger, and I used to have it played a lot when I was back in school. And the episode of shows I'm going to play for you are called The Magic Key. And here is a Magic Key theme song to see if any of you remember this.
When you ask a question, then it's time to go off on an adventure as the key starts to glow. Where are we going? Just come along and see. Join our adventure, having fun with the magic key. We'll play around the planets, we'll sail the 7 seas. With Floppy, Kipper, Biff and Chip, we'll go with the magic key. Magic, with Wilf and Wilma and their friends, we'll solve the mystery. In far-off lands, we'll lend a hand, we'll be there with the magic key. It's an adventure, having fun with the magic key.
Now, The Magic Key was a fantastic show that used to be on BBC, where a group of friends used to go on magical adventures when the magic key on the dog used to glow, and they used to go on fantastic adventures with pirates and lots of things like that. And as well as playing you some of their episodes, I'll be reading you some of the books that I still have from when I was younger. And I can't wait to play it, so let's hear that theme song from the Magic Key again.
When you ask a question, then it's time to go off on an adventure as the key starts to glow. Where are we going? Just come along and see. Join our adventure, having fun with the Magic Key. We'll play around the planets, we'll sail the seven seas. With Floppy, Kipper, Biff and Chip, we'll go with the Magic Key. With Wilf and Wilma and their friends, we'll solve the mystery. In far-off lands, we'll lend a hand, we'll be there with the Magic Key. It's an adventure, having fun with the Magic Key.
And I won't just be playing you the Magic Key episodes, I'll be playing you some other episodes of other fantastic children's shows. Also, if you would like me to read out any birthdays on my show next week, then you can text in the studios on 075 64 30 30 64. That's texting in the studios on 075 64 30 30 64. Or alternatively, you could email us on studio@solihullradio.com. That's studio@solihullradio.com. Or if you'd like to get in touch with me directly, then you can email me personally on atpmanners@hotmail.com, and I will endeavour to read out your birthday messages. Also, if you would like me to play a specific Disney song, if you've got a favourite Disney song that you'd like me to play, then again, text me personally on atpmanners@hotmail.com, and I will endeavour to play your favourite Disney songs. Also, if you really enjoyed my Rainbow Man episode today, Rainbow Man at Packwood House, then if you head down to YouTube and go to the Rainbow Man Children's channel, then you will be able to hear the episode of Rainbow Man at Packwood House, as well as all the other wonderful episodes that I've been reading every week for you on my show. And also, I've started to put my Nana's Tale stories that I've been reading for you on that channel as well. So you've got Hebe's Tale and Ozzy's Tale and Harry Larry's Tale at the moment. So if you've enjoyed my show today, then please join me again next week on my show from 8 a.m. till 10 a.m. And if you've enjoyed adventuring with the Mr. Men and the Little Miss, exploring with Rainbow Man and his friends Giddy Gordon and Grumpy Doug, and finding breakfast with Tigger, Pooh, Piglet and Eeyore from the Winnie the Pooh story, then please join me again next week, where you can have more fun and excitement on my Solihull Radio Children's channel next Sunday from 8 till 10 a.m. Thank you, and I hope you enjoyed it, and goodbye. Have a great weekend.
Solihull Radio.